Sloppy Saturdays back at you guys with another video, and today we're going over another off season. But unlike other off season where we're talking about a complete transformation, we're talking about this off season team being a true title contender due to the people they brought back. Yes, we were talking about Penn State. Now, Penn State have received a lot of hate over the recent years just for them not being getting over the hump, James Franklin not being able to get over the hump, being like a little brother in the Big Ten even though they have been very successful, again, haven't been able to really make that deep run. This year, they made a pretty deep run, being one of the final four teams. They lose on a Drew Aller interception, again, which was very disappointing against Notre Dame. Notre Dame went to the national championship. And now, this team, you guys might be saying, what are you talking about? Them bringing all their people back. They lost their two best players on each side of the ball, which is definitely true. We're talking about Abdul Carter being the best player in the NFL draft. A guy that they can't miss defensive end linebacker combo, very similar to Micah Parsons, who went there. And then you also talk about Tyler Warner getting comps to Travis Kelce due to how creative they used him in their offense last year. But they brought back a lot of people on this team, and I think this might be the team with the most veteran talent in entire NCAA football. So let's get right into it. Going on to the defense, they bring in one of their biggest acquisitions. I mean, has to be their biggest acquisition money wise in Jim Knowles. Jim Knowles, defensive coordinator from Ohio State, he comes, they poach him in for $3 million. That's going to make a huge difference. He led the top nation's defensive team 3 years in a row. They obviously won the national championship last year. So that's a huge addition for them to help James Franklin. Now, the first guy they keep is Dennis Sutton. Dennis Sutton, an absolute freak. We're talking about a junior, third team Big Ten. He had 8.5 total sacks last year. And this guy is a huge speedster on the edge for them. Now, again, they need to keep him with Abdul Carter leaving. You definitely need some veteran experience on the edge, and he's going to be a leader for them. Then you talk about Zane Durant. Zane Durant was a second team All American. This guy's going into his fourth year, and he decided to stay. He led the nation in tackle for losses, 4 tackles, and he's going to be the man in the middle for them. You talk about Zakee Wheatley with 2 secondary players leaving. He's going to be that safety that stands out. He was third on his team in tackles as a safety with 76 tackles. He's going to be huge in the secondary. And I think their biggest pickup on defense for me is going to be Anai White. Anai White, a guy very similar to Abdul Carter. That's a defensive end linebacker combo. And the biggest thing with Anai White, we're talking about a former 4-star recruit. He did not crack playing time at Texas A&M. I think that's why he left. Didn't get the playing time he wanted. And you could figure why. We're talking about Nick Gordon and Shamar Stewart on this Texas A&M team. These were two guys that are going to be top 10, top 15 players in the NFL draft. How is Anai White going to crack this? But you bring Jim Knowles in and you bring Anai White a bigger opportunity. I think we could really get Anai White's potential out at Penn State. So you talk about Anai White and Dennis Sutton on this defensive line coming back. This defensive line should be really good with Zane Durant in the middle, coming back for a fourth year, led the nation, like I said, in tackles for losses as a position. And they keep Zakee Wheatley as well as a leader in the secondary. Again, they got leaders all across this defense with the top paid coordinator. I really like this defense, again, going into this year. Now going into the offense, they kept a lot. Now, the thing with Penn State's offense that, again, I never necessarily liked, they have a top recruited quarterback in Drew Aller. I think Drew Aller has the potential to be the best quarterback in the nation this year. This is a huge key for them. We're talking about going into this Notre Dame game, Drew Aller being a first-round quarterback, having first-round hype. Again, yes, it was a very weak quarterback class, but that's why I thought there was a great chance Drew Aller was going to come out. Again, this was a guy that could have went top 3 in quarterbacks for this year. Decided to stay. Again, he did leave a lot on the table. We're talking about a guy with not the most overwhelming college stats. We're talking about he has not ever cracked a 3,000-yard season. But again, it's really been due to the outside threats he had. He never really had a true outside receiving threat. Yes, he had Tyler Warren last year, one of the best pass catchers in the nation, but never had a true wide receiver. We're talking about the Notre Dame game where he completed 0 passes to a wide receiver. When do you ever see a team complete 0 passes to a wide receiver? Never had that outside threat, and I think that's why he really wanted to stay, to prove to people that he could have a big throwing year. And they add Devontae Ross out of Detroit. Devontae Ross out of Detroit, a guy I really like, a guy I think could be a top 10 receiver in the nation. He had over 1,100 yards for Troy last year, 10 touchdowns. They also add Kyron Hudson with him that I think could be possibly have the potential to be a solid secondary receiver. We're talking about the receiver out of USC, 400 yards. And then the biggest add for this Penn State team, the biggest stays, are Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. Super surprised they stayed, but again, we highlighted on this channel a absolutely loaded running back class for this year, but they stay, bringing one of the best rushing attacks in the nation. I think it's going to be the best rushing attack in the nation. They both had 1,000 yards last year. Again, Nick Singleton had another previous 1,000-yard season as well. Two guys that have over 3,000 total yards in their college football career, and two guys that are going into their fourth year. We're talking about so many guys that we're talking about returning in their third and fourth year. And again, we're going to see this rushing attack really stay stable. Two NFL backs. We were talking about these guys being NFL backs 3 years ago. Now they're still in college football in their fourth year. Again, I think largely the part of all these guys staying made them stay as well. But again, not only that, like I said, a loaded running back class. Do I necessarily agree with them staying? I don't really know because, again, you're talking about two guys that are NFL backs, and then you're also talking about two, like a position that really does not get paid that many years. So staying for a fourth year, I don't know if I agree with that. This team also adds on offense TJ Shanahan as well, another guy that was a former four-star recruit on the offensive line to bolster up this running attack. Not only that, a guy that has had legal problems. So again, they do get him on a discount out of Texas A&M. But again, I think this team is completely loaded with veteran talent. We're talking about Dennis Sutton, Zane Durant, again, guys that are 3-4 years in college, the Key Wheatley as well. All those guys return on defense. Anai White, a guy that hasn't got his potential on his Texas A&M team, comes to Penn State again. Could play that Abdul Carter role as a linebacker defensive end if they get the most out of him. Then we talk about Drew Aller coming back for another year. A guy that really could have been a first-round pick with his physical talent. Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, two guys come back for their fourth year as running backs, which is very rare. Again, Devontae Ross out of Troy, like I said, really reminds me of Tez Johnson coming out of Troy. A vertical threat. Might be the first time Drew Aller ever has this. Kyron Hudson, a guy that they expect as a secondary receiver to get a lot of potential out of. And TJ Shanahan to bolster up this offensive line. Again, this team has so much veteran experience. We're talking about a Big Ten as well that really experienced a ton of turnover. You talk about Oregon with their quarterback, again, as a transfer starter. Then you're talking about Julian Sayin at Ohio State, a first-time starter. Bryce Underwood, a first-time starter. So all these guys in the Big Ten really have questions at quarterback and on their offense, where this team doesn't. They bring two major parts back on their offense in the running back room, and they have a veteran at quarterback that was one of the best quarterbacks in the country last year, and I think could be the best quarterback in the entire country and a Heisman candidate this year. That wraps up this episode. Penn State is bringing back a lot of veteran experience, and we think they could be the top team to win a national championship. That wraps up this episode of Sloppy Saturday.